Most Americans think the president writes laws. And it sounds perfectly reasonable. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a little assumption check to unpack a very common belief about how our government actually works and answer a pretty simple question. Does the president really write the laws?
I mean, think about it. We see presidents signing laws on television all the time, right? They are usually the single most visible political figure in the entire country. So our brains just naturally connect the dots. We think, okay, if they're the ones sitting at that big desk using the fancy pen and getting their picture taken, well, they must be the one who actually crafted the document. It just makes sense. But here is the surprising part, the part that's going to completely disrupt that whole assumption. Prepare to have your perspective shifted just a bit here. Because as it turns out, appearances can be highly misleading when it comes to the actual mechanics of our American legislative machine. Zero. Yep, absolutely zero. That is the exact number of bills the president can introduce into Congress, not a single one. The president literally cannot just walk into the Capitol building, hand over a piece of paper, and demand that a new law be voted on. It simply doesn't work that way. According to the actual rules that govern our system, the executive branch does not have the power of introduction.
So, the really crucial point here is understanding the fundamental difference between taking action on a final product and actually creating it in the first place. Think of it like this. Creation is the exclusive domain of the legislative branch. Members of Congress are the ones who are in the trenches, writing and submitting these bills. The executive role, well, that's simply action. The president's job is really just to sign or veto the final product that has already been handed to them.
Okay, let's look at the receipts to prove who actually holds this power. According to our source material, the NJ Red Assumption Check Card, there is a very clear, real system at play here. This cuts right through all that media noise we're used to, and it shows us the actual, factual pipeline of how an idea transforms into a legally binding rule in the United States. Let's break down how this real process works step by step. Step 1. Congress introduces. Representatives and senators are literally the only ones authorized to start this whole engine. Step 2, the House and Senate debate, amend, and vote. And honestly, this is where the heavy lifting and the actual writing happens. Step 3, only after a bill passes both of those chambers does it finally go to the president, who then acts by either signing or vetoing it. And finally, Step 4, the courts step in to interpret that law once it's actually in effect. And the Constitution backs this all up by very clearly separating these powers across 3 distinct pillars. Article 1 created Congress specifically to create the laws. Article 2 created the presidency to sign or veto them. And Article 3 created the Supreme Court to interpret them. It's really an elegant sequential system, and it was designed specifically so that no single person ever holds all the power.
So that brings up a really fascinating question. If the president doesn't actually write laws, why on earth do so many people think he does? Like, why is this myth so incredibly widespread? Well, honestly, it makes total sense that we get confused. And it mostly comes down to what we are regularly shown in the media.
Just look at what we see versus what we miss. We constantly see the flashy final administrative step, that big TV signing ceremony. I mean, it makes for a fantastic photo op, but we completely miss the grueling legislative work that comes first. We don't see the months of rigorous committee meetings, the intense debates, the constant amendments, and the late-night voting that happened long before that bill ever reached the president's desk. Which brings us to the big aha moment for this explainer. The president absolutely gets the spotlight, but Congress actually does most of the writing. Just look at this quote directly from the source. Signing a law and writing a law are 2 different things. When you see that fancy pen hit the paper on the evening news, you are watching the finish line of the legislative race, not the starting line. Therefore, the real question we should be asking isn't who signs laws, but who creates them. Understanding this process is far more important than just memorizing a title, because creating and signing are 2 entirely different jobs. When we actually focus on the process, we start to realize where the real power to change things in our country actually lives.
So, think about it. If most people naturally think the president writes laws, what other government responsibilities might people misunderstand? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? This has been another NJ Red Assumption Check. Question everything, learn something, think for yourself. And if this surprised you, check out the companion master sheet where we break down the full process step by step.